Imagine your main support structure, your very skeleton, silently and secretly turning brittle, as fragile as thin glass, without you even realizing it. Sounds like something out of a horror film, doesn't it? Sadly, this is the very real situation facing millions of people across the globe. The name of this quiet menace is osteoporosis. Now, we're not here today to frighten you. Quite the opposite, in fact. We want to arm you with knowledge. We'll discuss why our bones lose strength, what critical mistakes we might be making daily, and crucially, how to build a genuine bone armour to avoid that dreadful diagnosis, a fractured hip. Stick with us until the end, and you'll receive a simple yet highly effective action plan that can help keep your bones strong for many years to come. Have you ever given much thought to your bone health? Let us know in the comments below. A simple yes or no will suffice. To properly understand our adversary, let's take a closer look at what osteoporosis actually is. If you were to look at a healthy bone under a microscope, it resembles a honeycomb or a sturdy sponge, a strong, porous structure. With osteoporosis, those pores, those tiny holes in the sponge, grow larger and larger. The surrounding walls thin out, causing the bone to lose density and become extremely fragile. The most insidious aspect of this condition is that the process is entirely pain-free and often without symptoms. A person might go years without realizing their skeleton has been critically weakened until disaster strikes, a fracture caused by minimal trauma, perhaps a fall from standing height, or even just a sudden movement or a strong cough. This is precisely why osteoporosis is often called the silent epidemic. It creeps up on you unawares, and frequently, its first sign is the fracture itself, particularly dangerous when it occurs in the wrist, the spine, and, of course, the ever-threatening hip. So let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is a bone? It's not just a solid, unchanging framework. Your bones are living, constantly renewing tissue. Inside them, two crucial processes are always happening. The best way to understand this is to picture a building site. You've got two key teams working there. The first team are the builders. We call them osteoblasts, who create new bone tissue. The second team is the demolition crew, known as osteoclasts, who break down the old bone. When we're young, the builders are much more active. Our bone mass grows, reaching its peak around age 30. Essentially, we're making a serious deposit into our bone bank. After about 35 or 40, however, that balance starts to shift. The demolition crew keeps working hard, but the builders, well, they start slowing down a little. This begins the slow, natural loss of bone mass that everyone experiences. With osteoporosis, this process speeds up significantly. The demolition crew starts working serious overtime, destroying bone much faster than the builders can ever hope to replace it. The result is that our entire internal structure, our bony framework, becomes weakened and very vulnerable. Let's look at why osteoporosis is so often labelled a woman's disease and why it is so heavily linked to getting older. The key factor here is hormones, specifically estrogen. These female sex hormones, besides their usual functions, are actually powerful protectors of our bones. They essentially keep the overzealous demolition crew, the osteoclasts, in check, preventing them from breaking down bone tissue too quickly. However, when a woman enters menopause, her estrogen levels suddenly drop. That vital protective barrier disappears. The osteoclasts are then unleashed and begin their destructive work with renewed, often doubled vigour. This is why, in the first 5 to 7 years following menopause, a woman can lose up to 20% of her total bone mass. This process certainly happens in men too, but it is much more gradual. The reduction in testosterone, which also plays a crucial part in bone protection, occurs at a significantly slower pace. However, by the time both sexes reach the age of 65 or 70, the overall risk of developing osteoporosis becomes roughly the same for both men and women. Let's discuss the things we simply cannot influence. Our genes. If your mother or grandmother suffered from osteoporosis, or experience fractures from minor falls or slight bumps, especially the dreaded hip fracture, then sadly, your own risk is significantly elevated. Genetics determine up to 80% of your peak bone mass. That's the capital you have saved up in your bone bank. Now, this isn't a life sentence, it's simply a crucial heads up. If osteoporosis runs in your family, you genuinely need to be doubly vigilant about your health. Other non-controllable risk factors include your ethnic background, specifically being of Caucasian or Asian descent, and having a naturally slender or fragile build. People who naturally have a lower body weight and thinner bones start off with a smaller reserve of bone mass. Essentially, they have less to lose in the first place, making them vulnerable sooner. Knowing these immutable factors is your vital first step towards effective prevention. It means you must start paying close attention to your diet, physical activity, and those regular screenings and checkups, all things we'll be discussing next. Let's now turn our attention to something that is entirely within our control. And the first major stumbling block is, of course, bad habits. Smoking is nothing short of a poison for your skeletal health. Nicotine directly attacks the builder cells, the osteoblasts, severely slowing down the formation of new bone. It also restricts the blood flow to the bone tissue, preventing vital nutrients from reaching where they are needed. On top of that, smoking reduces calcium absorption in the gut and disrupts estrogen production in women, which can hasten the onset of menopause. The risk of a debilitating hip fracture increases with every pack year. That is, a packet of cigarettes a day for a whole year. Moving on to alcohol. Excessive drinking is another powerful blow to your skeleton. Alcohol is toxic to bone cells. It messes up your hormone balance and seriously interferes with the body's ability to absorb calcium and vitamin D. Furthermore, intoxicated people are simply more likely to fall, and when you already have frail bones, that fall almost guarantees a fracture. Giving up smoking entirely and maintaining only moderate alcohol intake isn't just generic healthy living advice. It is a concrete, absolutely crucial step toward ensuring the long-term strength of your skeletal system. The second common mistake we often see is simply an unbalanced diet. Now, so many people believe that calcium alone is enough for strong bones, and that is a huge misunderstanding. Believe me, our modern diet is often overloaded with processed foods, excessive sugar, and far too much salt. This combination actually creates an acidic environment in your body. To neutralize that acid, your body is then forced to pull alkaline minerals, primarily calcium, from its main storage unit, your bones. Essentially, you are washing the building blocks right out of your own skeleton. Fizzy drinks, especially those containing phosphoric acid like cola, also seriously contribute to this calcium leaching. Too much salt forces your kidneys to flush out more calcium than they should. Furthermore, if you're a fan of those strict, low-calorie diets, especially when you were younger, it means you simply didn't get the essential nutrients you needed to build up that peak bone density. Your bone bank, if you like, was left half empty, right from the start. So it's vital to understand this. Bone health starts right there on your plate, and it's much, much more complicated than just drinking a glass of milk. Let's have a chat about the cornerstone of healthy bones, calcium. 99% of all the calcium in our bodies resides right there in our bones and teeth. It's the stuff that gives them their hardness and strength. If the body doesn't have enough calcium for other vital functions, things like muscle contraction or the nervous system, it won't hesitate to pull what it needs directly from your bone reserves. That's why keeping a steady supply coming in through your diet is absolutely crucial. Now, there's a widely held belief, you might even call it a myth, that milk is the #1 source of calcium. Dairy products are certainly calcium-rich, but they don't suit everyone, and we shouldn't feel we have to rely solely on them. There are plenty of other fantastic options out there. Think about your green leafy vegetables, things like kale, broccoli, and spinach. Just a quick note, the calcium in spinach is slightly less easily absorbed due to oxalates. Tinned fish with those soft, edible little bones is another brilliant source, sardines or salmon, for example. You'll also find high levels in nuts, particularly almonds, and in seeds like sesame and chia. And don't overlook pulses and legumes, or calcium-fortified products such as tofu and various plant-based milks. Right, so we've covered getting the calcium in, but that sadly is only half the battle. The third common mistake is ignoring calcium's most important little helper, the one who truly conducts the whole orchestra of bone metabolism. And that, of course, is vitamin D. Without enough of it, most of the calcium you've just eaten will simply pass straight through your system, never making it into your bloodstream, and therefore never reaching your bones. Think of vitamin D as the gatekeeper, or perhaps a rather diligent doorman, opening the necessary doors in your gut so the calcium can actually be absorbed. The main and best source of this vital vitamin is, of course, good old sunshine. It's synthesized right there in our skin when exposed to UV light. However, for most of us, particularly here in the northern latitudes of the UK, we simply don't get enough strong sunlight for much of the year. Add to that the use of sunscreens, darker skin tones, and the simple fact of getting older. All these factors significantly reduce our ability to produce vitamin D naturally. Getting sufficient amounts from diet alone is quite tricky. It's found in oily fish, think salmon, mackerel, and herring, as well as cod liver oil and egg yolks, but hitting your full daily requirement purely through your meals is virtually impossible. Because of this, vitamin D deficiency is a massive worldwide issue, and for most people, taking a supplement is necessary. But please always remember to speak to your GP and get a simple blood test done before starting any new regime. Okay, let's say vitamin D has done its job and the calcium is successfully absorbed into your bloodstream. You might think, great, mission accomplished, but actually we're not done yet. This is where we encounter a critical, often overlooked step, forgetting about the body's traffic controller. Having calcium in the blood is essential, but the crucial point is ensuring it goes exactly where it's needed, into the bones. We absolutely do not want it deposited on artery walls, leading to dangerous calcification, or accumulating in the kidneys, where it forms stones. And the element responsible for this vital direction is another crucial, yet frequently ignored nutrient, vitamin K2. K2 is the activator. It switches on specific proteins that act like tiny taxis. These proteins grab the calcium circulating in the blood and shuttle it directly into your bone matrix, integrating it perfectly into the structure. Without sufficient vitamin K2, this critical process breaks down. The calcium is left to essentially wander the bloodstream, where it can potentially cause serious damage. The best sources of vitamin K2 are certain fermented foods, such as sauerkraut and the potent Japanese dish natto, as well as hard cheeses, quality egg yolks, and butter derived from grass-fed cows. Unfortunately, these foods are often sorely lacking in the standard modern diet, making it vital to pay extra attention to ensuring you get enough. Alongside calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2, there's another absolutely essential element for building strong bones: magnesium. If you think of calcium as the bricks, then magnesium is the cement that holds them firmly together. Roughly 60% of the magnesium in our body is stored right there in our bones. It's an integral part of their structure, providing flexibility and helping them withstand stress. Without enough magnesium, our bones would simply become far too brittle. What's more, magnesium is crucial for converting vitamin D into its active form. Think of it this way: without magnesium, your vitamin D conductor simply can't get the orchestra playing. Magnesium deficiency is actually very common today. This is linked to soil depletion and the heavy processing of the foods we eat. This vital mineral, for instance, is literally stripped away from grains when we produce white flour. Therefore, it is important to include magnesium-rich foods in your daily diet, such as whole grains, nuts, especially almonds and cashews, pumpkin seeds, legumes, dark chocolate, and plenty of green leafy vegetables. A truly balanced diet that includes all four of these essential elements, calcium, vitamin D, K2, and magnesium, is the bedrock of long-term skeletal health. Let's clear up a popular misunderstanding about protein. For years, there was this idea going around that a high-protein diet, especially if it was mostly meat, made your body too acidic and somehow leached calcium right out of your bones. Well, recent research shows that this is simply not the whole story. In fact, protein is absolutely vital for bone tissue. Think of your bone structure as a scaffold. That support system, the bone matrix where minerals are deposited, is actually 50% protein, mostly collagen. Not getting enough protein, especially as we get older, leads to a significant loss of muscle mass, what doctors call sarcopenia. This results in general weakness, and sadly, that means a much higher risk of falls and broken bones. Adequate protein intake, on the other hand, actually improves how well your body absorbs calcium and encourages the production of hormones that are beneficial for bone strength. Now, the key word here is adequate. We're generally looking for an intake of between 1 and 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day. It's crucial, of course, that your diet is well balanced overall and includes plenty of fruits and vegetables to help maintain a healthy internal balance. The fifth, and arguably the most crucial mistake we make, is leading a sedentary lifestyle. You could be eating the healthiest foods and taking the best vitamins, but if your bones aren't properly loaded, they will still weaken. Think about astronauts. In zero gravity, they lose bone mass incredibly quickly. Our bones operate on a simple principle: use it or lose it. There is a principle known as Wolff's Law, which states that bone tissue adapts according to the stress placed upon it. When we walk, run, or jump, our muscles pull on the bones, and this tension creates microscopic bending in those areas. This sends a crucial signal to our builder cells, the osteoblasts, indicating that the area needs to be reinforced. Essentially, physical activity is a direct command to your body. Hey, we need a strong bone right here, so get to work. A sedentary lifestyle, on the other hand, sends the exact opposite message, that a sturdy skeleton isn't necessary. This allows the body to save resources by beginning to dismantle it. That is why regular physical exercise isn't merely beneficial. It is an absolutely essential condition for maintaining bone density throughout your entire life. What are the most effective types of exercise for keeping our bones strong? Well, there are two main categories we need to look at. The first type is called weight-bearing or axial loading. Simply put, these are any activities where you are standing up and using your body to actively fight gravity. The easiest and most accessible way to start is walking, especially if you can manage a reasonably brisk pace. Other great examples include light jogging, dancing, climbing the stairs, playing tennis, or even using Nordic walking poles. These types of exercise specifically stimulate and strengthen the bones in your legs, hips, and the lower spine, which are often the most vulnerable areas. The second crucial type is strength training, also known as resistance training. This involves working your muscles against a force. This could mean using hand weights, resistance bands, specialized gym machines, or simply using your own body weight, things like push-ups, or easier alternatives like wall push-ups and squats. Strength training is vital for strengthening the bones throughout your entire body, including those in your arms and wrists. Ideally, you should combine both kinds of exercise, aiming for sessions of 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week. It's absolutely essential to remember that this effort must be regular, and the intensity should increase gradually over time. This ensures your bones are consistently challenged and stimulated to grow stronger. Now, here is a crucially important point. If you have already been diagnosed with osteoporosis, some exercises can be not just pointless, but genuinely dangerous. The cardinal rule is to avoid sudden movements, any deep spinal twisting, and aggressive forward bending. Exercises like standard sit-ups or crunches and touching your toes with straight legs put immense strain on your vertebrae and could potentially cause a compression fracture. You should also be extremely cautious about high-impact activities, such as jumping or vigorous running, especially if these are not already a regular part of your routine. Now, swimming and aqua aerobics are wonderful for your joints and your heart health. However, They are actually less effective for strengthening your bones because the water removes the necessary weight-bearing load. Before starting any new exercise regimen, particularly if you have osteoporosis, you absolutely must consult with your doctor or a chartered physiotherapist. They can help you devise a safe and effective program that will strengthen not only your bones, but also your muscles. This tailored approach is key to improving your coordination and balance, which is vital for reducing the risk of falls. Since osteoporosis is often referred to as a silent disease, how can you possibly know you have it before you actually suffer a fracture? The gold standard for diagnosis is a bone density test, commonly known as a DEXA scan. This is a quick and completely painless procedure, much like a regular X-ray, but it uses only a very low dose of radiation. The special machine typically scans your lower back, the lumbar spine, and your hip joint. These are the areas where fractures can be most dangerous. The density test measures your bone mineral density, or BMD, and compares your result to the average score of healthy young adults. So, who is advised to have this screening done? Primarily, all women aged 65 and over, and all men aged 70 and over. It is also recommended for postmenopausal women younger than 65 if they have existing risk factors we've mentioned before, such as a family history, smoking, or a naturally slight or frail build. And finally, any adult who has suffered a fracture following only a minimal injury or trauma. This test not only allows us to accurately diagnose osteoporosis, but it also helps assess your future risk of fractures and monitor how effective your ongoing treatment is. After you've had your bone density scan, or densitometry, you'll receive a report full of rather cryptic letters and numbers. Let's take a moment to break down exactly what they mean. The key measurement is the T-score. This score essentially tells you how much your current bone density differs from the peak density expected in a healthy young adult, specifically a 30-year-old. If your T-score falls between +1, haploid 1, and -1, P1, that's excellent news. Your bone density is considered well within the normal range. However, if the score is somewhere between -1, 1, and -2.5 on 2.5, that condition is called osteopenia. Now, this isn't yet full osteoporosis. It's a borderline situation. Think of it as a yellow traffic light. It signals that your bone density has started to drop, and you need to proactively implement preventative measures immediately. If your T-score hits -2.5, 2.5, or lower, then you will be diagnosed with osteoporosis. This is the red light signal. It means you are at a high risk of fractures and require serious dedicated treatment under medical supervision. Understanding what these figures mean allows you to properly assess your situation and work closely with your doctor to establish the right strategy for protecting your bone health. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and when we talk about preventative care, we shouldn't be waiting until we're 60. We need to start when we're 6. The foundation for a healthy skeleton is laid down entirely during childhood and our younger years. Think of it in terms of building a bone bank. Up until about the age of 30, we have a unique window of opportunity to accumulate maximum strength, our main capital, if you like. The higher that peak bone mass is, the bigger the reserves we'll have to draw upon later in life, ensuring we avoid serious consequences. That's why it's absolutely vital to get children used to a proper diet right from the start, one that's rich in calcium and all those essential minerals. It's also important that youngsters and teenagers spend plenty of time outdoors, in the sunshine, soaking up that all-important vitamin D, and naturally, they must be physically active, running around, jumping, climbing, anything that stimulates bone growth and really strengthens them up. Taking care of your bones when you're young truly is the most reliable investment you can make towards a healthy and active old age. If you're a parent or a grandparent, please remember this. You are laying the fundamental groundwork for your child's health for the rest of their lives. Even if your bones are still relatively strong, a fall in later life can be extremely serious. That's why creating a safe environment at home is absolutely crucial for preventing fractures. Most accidents happen right where we feel safest, at home. Take a moment to check your living space. Get rid of any unnecessary clutter on the floor, especially loose wires and rugs that might cause you to trip. Ensure you have good lighting throughout the house, particularly when you walk to the toilet at night. Motion-activated night lights are a great idea. In the bathroom, always use a non-slip mat, and consider fitting grab rails near the bath, shower, and toilet. At home, wear supportive, sturdy shoes with good grip, not worn-out, floppy slippers. If you have any issues with your sight or hearing, make sure you have regular checkups and always use your glasses or hearing aids. These measures may seem simple, but they could genuinely save your life by preventing a dangerous fall and the serious injuries that often follow. Now, there are other risk factors we need to look out for, which can speed up the thinning of our bones. These include certain long-term conditions, such as rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid gland problems, type 1 diabetes, as well as any ongoing digestive issues that stop us absorbing the vital nutrients we need. Mind you, taking certain medications for a long time can also have a detrimental effect on your bone health. The main culprits here are glucocorticoids, often known simply as steroids, which are frequently prescribed for things like asthma, arthritis, and other inflammatory conditions. They actually directly suppress the cells responsible for building up new bone tissue. We should also mention that certain anti-seizure medications and some drugs used during breast and prostate cancer treatment can influence bone density. If you are required to take any of these medications, please don't stop taking them. This information should simply prompt you to discuss bone protection strategies with your GP or specialist. They might recommend boosting your intake of calcium and vitamin D, or perhaps scheduling a regular bone density scan, sometimes called a DXA scan, just to keep a close eye on your bone tissue. A lot of us, particularly as we get a bit older, develop a real worry about taking a tumble. This fear naturally makes us move around less, and as we've discussed, this unfortunately only compounds the issue. Our muscles weaken, our sense of balance starts to deteriorate, and the risk of falling actually increases, which is completely counterintuitive. Now, to break out of this vicious circle, it is absolutely essential that we focus on improving our balance and coordination. Simple, dedicated exercises can really help here. Think about practicing standing on one leg, or perhaps trying that heel-to-toe walking drill. Activities like Tai Chi or gentle yoga are wonderfully useful. They subtly build up your flexibility, strength, and overall sense of equilibrium. Even simple daily actions, such as standing up from a chair without relying on your arms, count as vital training. By actively strengthening those muscles and sharpening your coordination, you'll feel much steadier on your feet and naturally gain confidence in every move you make. This is about more than just reducing the risk of a fall. It brings back the sheer enjoyment of an active life, helping you maintain your independence and remain self-reliant for many years to come. To sum up, let's bring all the elements of our protection plan together one last time. Firstly, nutrition. Your diet needs to be rich in foods packed with calcium, magnesium, vitamin K2, and protein. Secondly, maintaining an adequate level of vitamin D. For most of us, this means taking a supplement, ideally after consulting with your GP. Thirdly, cutting out damaging habits. That means quitting smoking and limiting your alcohol intake. Fourthly, and this is absolutely vital, regular physical activity. Ensure you combine weight-bearing and strength training exercises. Fifthly, be aware of your personal risks and ensure timely diagnosis using a bone density scan or densitometry. And finally, make sure you create a safe environment around yourself and work on improving your balance to prevent falls. Osteoporosis is a serious condition, but it is not a life sentence. It is a challenge we can and must meet. By managing these key factors, you are taking the health of your bones into your own hands, allowing you to build an active and secure future for yourself. So we've established that osteoporosis isn't just an unavoidable consequence of getting older, but the result of many factors, most of which we have the power to influence. The crucial realization when tackling this issue is understanding that our bones are living tissue. They respond directly to our care, or they suffer from our neglect. They need the right kind of fuel in the form of proper nutrients and regular maintenance in the form of physical activity. We've learned that milk alone isn't a magic bullet, and that vitamins D and K2 play just as vital a role as calcium. Crucially, we understand that a sedentary lifestyle is a direct route to a fragile skeleton. The key message I want you to take away is this: it is genuinely never too late to start taking care of your bones. Even if you have already received an osteoporosis diagnosis, the right course of action can significantly slow down bone density loss and greatly reduce the risk of debilitating fractures. Thank you so much for watching this video right to the end. If you found it helpful, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes about health and well-being. Now, a question for you. Which of the suggestions we discussed today will you start applying as early as tomorrow? Or perhaps you have your own time-tested method for strengthening bones? Please share your experience in the comments below. Let's get a discussion going.